My name is Frankie Panzanella Goodrich, and I'm here to talk about how to prevent child abuse from occurring in your church. The rates at which child abuse and child molestation are happening in the church are rising at alarming rates. This is a very real issue we need to handle head on. The church cannot keep sweeping it under the rug and pretending it doesn't happen. We need to have security measures in place to protect these families and children. The church should be a safe place for all people. Your congregation needs to be able to trust that you will keep them and their children safe. One of the best ways you can help prevent something like this from happening is how you handle the application process for new volunteers. First, you need to have an application process. The person applying needs to submit to a mandatory background check. We also recommend that applicants submit 1 to 3 references with their application. None of these references should be personal references. Personal references are worthless. You want references that are coming from places where this person has worked with children in the past. These need to be places where you can ask, how has this person handled disciplining children? Can I trust this person with children? It is also recommended that a person should have been attending the church for at least 6 months before you allow them to apply to work in the children's ministry. This gives them time to build a relationship with you and others in the church. If you find out that someone in the church is a registered sex offender, here are some actions you can take. The person should not be allowed to work with minors under any capacity. If the victim or their family attends your church, then the abuser should be asked to leave the church. If the victim or their family does not attend your church, then you can ask the person to sign a limited attendance agreement. The limited attendance agreement should be approved by your lawyer and the person's parole officer. The person should have a chaperone with them at all times when they are in the church. The chaperone cannot be a spouse or a family member. Another rule you should have in place for volunteers is that no adult should be left alone with a child. The dream is to have 2 adults in a classroom, but this is not always possible, especially if you have a smaller church. It's okay if, say, you have 10 kids in a room with 1 adult. This is the same standard public schools follow with their teachers. The important thing is a child is not alone with an adult without a parent or guardian present. This protects both the adult and the child from compromising situations. It is also helpful to have security cameras in your classroom. This can make or break a case if an allegation is made against one of your volunteers. Being able to see how a volunteer acts in a classroom and see exactly what's happening is extremely helpful and worth the investment. Now say the unthinkable happens. You have discovered a volunteer has molested a child in your church, or an allegation like this has been made against your volunteer. What do you do now? What you don't do is ignore it or try to hide it. You will be further hurting the victim and their family and condoning the actions of the abuser. The first thing you need to do when an allegation of child abuse is made is immediately notify your insurance company. This way, if a lawsuit happens, the insurance company will help cover the costs. It is important to note that as a clergy, you are required by law to report child abuse to the authorities. The volunteer in question should be suspended immediately, even if they are innocent. The volunteer should remain suspended until a decision has been made. How a church responds to these kinds of situations will greatly determine the outcome. Make sure to offer help, support, and counseling to the victim and their family. They are going through a traumatic and emotionally draining event. They will need your help and support to get through it. Now, if word gets out, it is likely the church will be contacted by the media for comments about the situation. It is important to have a response prepared and ready. Some important things to keep in mind when communicating with the media include: don't say no comment. Don't lie or mislead the media. You also don't have to answer any of their questions. Having your response ready is helpful. Your response could say something like, "We had an incident. We are in contact with the authorities. I cannot share details at this time." When the investigation is ongoing, be careful with what you say to people and within board meetings. Do not go into detail about the abuse or situation. Once a decision has been reached, and if the perpetrator is convicted, you will need signed consent from the perpetrator to share what happened with people in the church. Remember, what you say will affect the family, the victim, and people who were affected by the situation. Be considerate when discussing the events that took place. It is a part of your job to help protect the privacy of the people affected by this.